Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, we'll give another minute for folks to join in and then we can get started. Right, another minute and we should be fine. We should get started. Waiting for some folks to join in. We have about 9 people. Okay, cool. I think we can start. All right, folks, good morning. My name is Kedar, and today I'll be walking you through the overview of the whole course on HR Analytics for CoachX. Just to set some background context, I have been in the industry for about last 13 years. And since the last 13 years, I've been around teaching for the last 8 years and parallelly working as well. So I'm a data scientist by profession and kind of have been working on these analytics side of things for the last around 12 to 13 years. Okay. Now, I am assuming that every one of you has at least looked at the brochure, seen what the course covers, so on and so forth. But the idea is of this session to kind of give you an overview and a glance or a sneak peek preview of what we have in this course. What are some of the things that you should be uh, kind of aware of? What will be the advantages that you get post this course? And the last but not the least is the fact that what would be your kind of involvement in terms of learning, curriculum, so on and so forth going in. Please feel free to ask any questions at any given point in time. I really do not want this to be a kind of a one-way traffic. wherein I'm speaking and you guys are listening in. Uh, Please feel free to ask questions, queries, anything that you have. Please feel free to ask. Don't leave any stone unturned. Okay. We also have the CoachX team here with us so that if you have any logistical, operational, finance related questions, you can ask those as well. But the idea is the fact that we should be kind of able to answer nearly all the questions that you have. Okay. So that is the premise, that is the context. I'm gonna start off the session. If you have any queries prior to that, this is your time. Please feel free to ask. Okay. There is no kind of uh, thing, अरे मैंने पूछ लिया तो ये कैसा क्वेश्चन है, so on and so forth. Don't feel anything on those lines. Okay. Be very honest and kind of uh, ask any question that you think you want. Second thing, I don't have any fancy presentation to give you. We will whiteboard everything. Okay. I believe that presentations are great when you have a static content to showcase, but when you have to give an overview of a particular subject, you have to whiteboard stuff. So I'll be whiteboarding a lot of things today. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know once you're able to see it. Are you folks able to see the screen? Yes, no, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So before I get started, right, uh, I just want to know, like I see around 17 people in this class. Not in this class, I would say in this session, but and I think let's assume that one of them is a trainer, another two are from CoachX. So essentially that leaves us with 14 folks. So how many of you guys have actually touched, let's say, uh, HR data, spreadsheets, ATS exports, surveys? What have you ever looked at that kind of data? Any one of you? Komal, Suhani, Ruby, Sham, have you ever looked at HR data at any given point in time? Actual data, how it looks like.
Not really.
Anyone? Sham, you were saying something?
Not really. Not as much as I would have liked.
Okay, okay. Suhani,
Not exactly Shripuna here.
okay.
Not exactly HR data, but yes, I do work on dashboards for trades and all, where I get an exposure to that trade data, how the trading happens, how the trades are booked, how it looks, how it reflects in a dashboard. So those exposures, yeah, I have, yeah, data exposure.
Got it. Got it. So awesome. So we will touch base on this a bit later, ma'am. Okay, which and your kind of touch points on this will be really helpful. Cool. So I think let me kind of ask you about some of the things that are happening currently. Okay. You might have seen in the market that there is a lot of unrest. And in this unrest, right, comes a lot of uncertainty. So if I were to kind of give you a magic box, okay, I want you guys firstly to tell me in this magic box, let's say you are a HR analytics person. I'll talk about what is an HR analytics person a bit later. But let's say you have this magic box of HR analytics and you could do anything. Okay. What would be your what would be your thought process? And let's say you wanted to plan for Q4 of this year. So Q4 is like October, November, December. What would be your some of the goals for any company? Forget a specific company. Let's say you are like an HR analytics head. There is Q4, October, November, and December. You wanted to plan certain things and you wanted to predict and kind of make sure that the company hiring and everything is in a stable space. What
Yeah,
would be
hi
some of
Kedar, Aradhana here. So
Yeah.
I'm into learning and development. So
Okay.
majorly, what we have been doing currently is that we just do the training and we are not able to measure the effectiveness. So for Q4
Okay.
quarter, I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
calculate the ROI of training and maybe
ROI.
present it to the board. Yeah,
Awesome. This is a great example. Okay. And plus
and
present
presenting it to the
board. Okay. Awesome. This is a great one. Anyone else? What do you think? Anything, right? It can be wrong as well, folks. Like that's fine. It's okay to be wrong. This is
What
the
will
place where
be
you
the,
can be
yeah, so one will be the, what will be the manpower requirement for the next means for quarter 4?
manpower requirement. Awesome. Very good. So manpower requirement. Okay. Now this manpower requirement, let's break it down into two parts, ma'am. Okay. One can be the existing workforce that you already have, right? And the second thing might be the fact that the extra hiring that you have to do. And also one more thing, which should also be thought of or considered, is the fact that people will leave attrition. Okay, attrition will also there. Okay, somebody has messaged at for recruitment and performance management, but it's correct. So that awesome. So we have these three use cases, and I'm 1000% sure that there are at least 5 to 100 different more use cases that we can think of. But I wanted to kind of give you an overview of this course via a live or a kind of, not I would say live, but a use case based example. Because I think this is the best way to understand things which are closer to us in our day-to-day life. Okay. So before we move on to any of these use cases, I just want somebody to kind of talk to me about, we said that this is a HR analytics magic box, right? So what is the role of this magic box? Meaning, what does an HR analytics person do? And let's also understand while we are at it, what is the meaning of the word analytics? So if anybody can explain what is HR analytics and what does analytics mean in a general sense?
Analysis of particular subjects within HR scope, um,
Okay.
in order to derive at a conclusion or helps to arrive at a decision.
Okay. Okay. So you let's say analytics, right? So does that also mean, ma'am, that you will do predictions about the fact that how much attrition will be there in a company, how much amount of raises should you give, so on and so forth? Is that also considered under analytics?
Yeah, when it comes to decision making, obviously decision making will be a futuristic approach for present and future. So obviously it will give a prediction.
Correct. So let's take HR analytics a bit later, but let me explain to you what is analytics first. Okay. So ma'am is perfectly correct. Analysis of a particular topic with respect to HR and doing all of these processes for a specific conclusion or reaching to a particular decision. So there are essentially three types that you need to understand that are there. And if this is not rocket science, you will see this anywhere on the internet search. A simple search will yield you this. Okay. Predictive and prescriptive. So there are three kinds of analytics that generally happen. Okay. There is descriptive, there is predictive, and there is prescriptive. Okay. Now, you need to understand which of which does what. This is important. Descriptive is nothing but analyzing past data. Okay. Predictive is nothing but predicting the future. Can somebody tell me what is prescriptive? Any idea? Any idea what is prescriptive?
Conclusion.
No. Any?
Measure
So,
for future analysis.
partly correct, but prescriptive is like the following. Prescriptive is like wherein you essentially prescribe a solution to avoid problems at all. So, for example, this is a very bad example, but let me give it anyways. Let's say that you figure out or you find a way that it says that on 10th of October in Pune there will be a huge flood. Okay, let's say there is a huge flood. Now you know this via your predictive analytics because you predicted that there will be a flood on 10th of October. But what are you doing to mitigate it? There should be some way to mitigate it, right? And that all thing comes under prescriptive part. So, for example, to give an example in terms of HR side of things, right? Let's say you know that the attrition in the company is increasing quarter over quarter, and next quarter it is going to reach at its peak level. Then what are you doing to mitigate it? So, what are you prescribing it as a medicine or a solution to kind of fix that issue or to fix that problem? That is prescriptive analytics. Okay, so that is the premise. There are three types of analysis. Okay, and what we end up with is descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive. Now, I have a question. When we say descriptive, we said that we will analyze past data. So, which tools do we cover to analyze past data? What are the use cases that we solve? Can anybody help me understand this? Let's say I do descriptive HR analytics. What does that even mean? Any idea?
Last 2 years, 4 years data.
Correct. Last 2 years, 4 years data, but to do
Yeah.
what?
Mm. See, if we want to check the upcoming attrition, then we have to analyze that how many attrition has taken place last quarter, last 1 year, 2 years, reason for the attrition, and how many
Any
attrition. Yeah.
correct. But you said a word, how many iterations are coming up or will happen. So
Mm-hmm.
this is not regarding the future, ma'am, just to be very clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is regarding everything that has already happened. Already happened. And when you want to kind of find out something that has already happened, you require certain tools to find insights from it. Okay, you want certain tools to find insights from. And that is where you end up with things like SQL, Power BI, or Tableau. You can pick anyone. And the most important of them all, Excel. Okay. And one of the scripting languages, which is Python. Okay. Now this is done so that we can kind of understand what is happening on the descriptive part. And how these tools are used is a different ballgame altogether, which I'll come back to in a minute. But now let's talk about the predictive part. Okay. For predictive part, you require some kind of algorithmic approach that you have to predict. Oh my God, this is what is going to happen. So I have this amount of iteration. So what should I need to do? So some kind of algorithms. Let's call them algorithms. Let's not even call them machine learning. Let's call them algorithms. To write these algorithms, you will need some kind of script, which is Python. And you will require all of this on some kind of data, which is SQL. Okay, so where the data is stored. Okay, and then you will require some kind of prescriptive activity to stop this whole thing altogether, right? So let's kind of look at some of the other tools, like which can help you in stopping all of that. Okay, and when I say tools, right, they can be as simple as ChatGPT, where you kind of have uh, an analysis done that, hey, this is the problem, what can be some of the problems that, how can I solve some of the problems? Some of the HRIMS tools that you say that, hey, the compensation for this person is pretty low, so let me kind of increase it by a bit so that he can be retained. The other thing being that you can also have other tools in place. Okay. If you have any specific, you can kind of add them in here. But the idea is that there are specific tools which essentially kind of uh, help in retaining the workforce that you have. Okay. So there are a couple of things that happen. Okay, and why am I telling all of this, right? So if I were to tell you that, hey, we are going to learn blah 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 in this whole course, right? It makes no sense. It makes no sense because you will be confused that, hey, why are we learning this? Okay. But I'm telling you all of this because this is exactly why we learn all of this, so that we have to kind of understand all of these things in one go. We have to kind of find a way to link the predictive to descriptive to predictive, predictive to prescriptive, and at the end of the day, post all of this, need to form a story. Because unless and until you give a raw Excel sheet with some numbers in it to the management will have a hard time understanding what is the story behind that spreadsheet. Okay. So at the end of the day, whatever you do here, okay, sorry, whatever you do here, all of that should be kind of given by a story which has a logical ideation behind it. Meaning, let's take an example. One of you told us in the HR analytics example that training and ROI of training. Okay, and they had to present this to the board. Now, a easier way to present it to the board is that, hey, I did 52 trainings across this year, and after that, in those 52 trainings, there were about 500 students enrolled. So that is my analysis. Now, how to calculate ROI of training? Can somebody tell me? Any idea? How would you calculate ROI of any kind of training that happens in a company for L&D, learning and development?
Linking to the employee's performance.
Okay, let's write them down. Linkings to employees' performance. And how would you keep on measuring employee performance? How would you say that the performance has gone up or gone down post or pre-training? Like, how would you do that?
Pre-training, the data would have been there with respect to their errors or how they have behavioral skills or whatsoever. And post-training, again, it has to be again measured in terms of certain parameters set. The parameters needs to be set and it has to be measured against that. And
So you will create something called as a pre-training parameters
yeah.
matrix, okay, on which you will measure things like, hey, how productive is this guy? How many leaves does he take? On an
Yeah, yeah.
average, what is his project completion time? So
Mm.
on and so forth.
Yes,
And
yes.
then post this training happens, okay, let's say training happens here, and then you will measure the same kind of parameters in the same training for a post-training part. And whatever the delta happens between the two, will be your effect. Okay. Now, this is great, but let's be realistic. Okay. All of these are very highly theoretical things because at the end of the day, you cannot measure how productive one person is. In an ideal case, you can just have various parameters that are there, but are they essentially able to measure exactly how productive an employee is? Any other way to kind of understand the ROI? So tell me the mathematics, right? Like what? So let's say you kind of had a training which was around $100K. Okay. Now, how would you justify this to your management? And that's exactly the hard part. This is not something where we just run an experiment wherein we will say something like pre and post and then measure and then do things, right? This requires a long-term commitment in terms of like, if this was the cost of training, then let's break it down into things like uh, broader metrics, like there is something called as Kirkpatrick model. I'm not sure how many of you have heard it. Then there is something called as scorecard metrics, and then engagement and retention metrics as well. Now, with this, what you will do is you will give a weight to each of them, and you will kind of say that, hey, if I retain this guy, then I'm only I'm saving X amount of dollars. Versus, let's say, if I hire a new person, I will require Y amount of dollars more, and that would get kind of subtracted from this 100K amount. Okay, and you keep on creating these kinds of metrics and create a code or a program which would essentially help you calculate it once you are all of it. But if you think about it, what key things would you require? So you would require Excel here to understand pre-training and post-training parameters. Right. You would require some kind of a way to visualize this. So you will require a BI tool, which is a Power BI or a Tableau, so on. The third thing that you will require is somewhat like a mathematical model, very basic maths, right? A plus B is equal to C kind of a thing. But you will require somewhere to write it, either in Excel or in a scripting language like Python. The fourth thing that you will require is some kind of an HRMS portal that via which you can understand what was the average retention rate in the company, what is the average compensation of each and every employee. Let's say for all the data scientists in the company, what is the average compensation, so on and so forth. The fifth thing that you will require is things like AI, right? Wherein you will pass all of this information to ChatGPT, Perplexity, U.com, anything, and they would give you a mental model of how these things would work. Now, this is one part of the story. This is exactly one part of the story. The other part of the story also involves hiring, attrition, retention, so on and so forth. Nowadays, as you know, uh, a lot of folks do not kind of manually scan the resumes, right? You kind of group it all in one folder and you pass all of that folder to a code that is written. And what would that code do is it would that code just take inputs like, hey, how many years of experience do you require? How many, which kind of things that you require in a particular profile, and it will go and only scan every resume and give you back only those resumes which are present with those particular things that you requested for. And there is a lot to it, but the idea is that you have to cover all of this. So you will require some kind of storytelling aspect, some kind of modeling aspect, some kind of data aspect, and some kind of AI aspect to understand all of this. And that is exactly what we cover in this whole thing. Essentially, Excel, SQL, Power BI, and HR Analytics. Now, HR Analytics is essentially can be broken down into two different parts. Okay. uh, there is kind of, I would say, hiring, attrition, all of those kind of things via HRMS portals. So we will have live demos of HRMS portals and how they work. And then there will be this AI part where we will go across ChatGPT, Perplexity, so on and so forth, and take help from them in understanding how they can help us. Okay. So this is not like uh, a very theoretical thing that we will do. We will take a bunch of resumes, put them in a folder, write a code on top of it, pass that code to GPT, and ask it to kind of find out all the Python developers for us. We can also kind of write a code to kind of understand which of these profiles require what kind of training, so on and so forth. That is also possible. Okay. So we will be doing all of these things. Okay. We will be doing all of these things. Then there will be also things wherein we talk about time to hire, some of the other metrics. Okay. Like TTH, attribution, quarterly based synopsis of reasoning. Like, for example, suddenly quite a few people leave in a quarter, right? You want to understand what is the main reason behind kind of them leaving. So then you will have to kind of do some kind of an analysis on top of the reasons that they gave and understand the fact that, hey, one of the main reasons people are leaving is because we pay quite less as compared to competitors because somebody got a different job or a better job elsewhere. One of the reasons why people are leave, one of the reasons why people leave is because of the fact that remote work. So you have to understand all of these things via your dashboards, the metrics, and the excels of the world. And that is exactly what we solve in this course via real world use cases. Okay. The other thing that I would also like to kind of talk about is the fact that this is more or less a pretty hands-on course. Okay. So it is not as if that we are kind of all talking about theory. Okay, of course, at the start there will be theory because unless and until we kind of understand that, then it becomes extremely hard to go to the practicality of things. But the idea is once you understand that theory, there will be applications that you will have to do on top of that theory so as to test your knowledge. Okay, so that is an important and a crux part of this whole thing. Okay. So I'm gonna take a logical pause here and kind of ask you guys if you have any questions regarding anything that I've said or anything that I've not said as well. So that we are able to firstly get everybody on the same page. Because I know a couple of people joined late. So any questions? Please feel free to ask. This is the forum you should be asking all these questions. Believe me when I say this.
Hello.
Hello, Muskan. Yes, tell me.
Yes, as you mentioned, the three theories, scorecard theory and other two was there. Can you just brief me about these theories?
Sure. So, you have you heard of what is Kirkpatrick model or not?
No, no, no.
Uh, okay. Anybody else who has heard of Kirkpatrick model? So, all right, let me talk about Kirkpatrick a bit. The okay, I'll not go into too much depth. But this was essentially a model. This was created by Donald, I think, Sir. No, no, not Sir. He was not given a Sir. Okay, Kirkpatrick. Uh, this was way back in, I think, again, don't quote me on this, but I think this was back in 1950s, is when he devised this theory. Okay. And it is essentially on a normal scale, always up to four levels. But sometimes, if your requirement is there, it can also go down to five levels. Okay. The four levels essentially are very simple, extremely simple. Okay. And the base or the root of anything that you do is gathering metrics in this theory. And how you do that is the following. So the first question that you ask is, did your learners like it? Whatever was taught, like let's say we apply the Kirkpatrick model right now. Okay. The first question that let's say post this session that you need to ask yourself is, did you like it? If yes, then there is a survey that is run. Okay. And in that survey, you will have various metrics. Okay. These metrics would be like satisfaction scores, feedbacks, NPS, depending on what kind of things are you doing. The second question is, did they learn it? Okay. So you would measure things like this via pre and post training tests. So everyone would have a test. Okay. You would have simulations and quizzes and measure the scores pre and post. Okay. Uh, that is the second part. The third part is, which is the most important according to me, did they apply it? Okay. Like it's great to learn and theoretical knowledge and training based knowledge is great as long as somebody is able to apply. So there is something called as a 30, 60, 90-day follow-up plan that is followed in the Kirkpatrick theory, wherein what happens is post-training, you create a 30, 60, 90-day follow-up on whatever learnings the person has had. And they are essentially followed up by their senior manager or skip level manager, wherein a certain task is given and it is followed up by a 90-day program. That is the fourth one. And the fourth one is, sorry, did they achieve any business outcomes via that? Okay. So this measures kind of things like, let's say the person is in sales. So is there a sales growth associated with that person, right? If you had like, let's say this training done for about 150 odd people, then is the retention rate of those 150 odd people higher than that of the other peers in the group? So on and so forth. So you would kind of you would do analysis of these kind of metrics so as to get all of these things. And the fifth level, okay, this is very rarely used, but there is a fifth level called as the ROI level, okay, which was our main topic. Okay, so where you can able to calculate, you can be able to calculate. Sorry, my bad. Where you are able to calculate the financial value, okay, uh, via kind of doing certain assumptions. Okay. Uh, like for example, let's say if the retention is higher, you calculate X amount of dollars against it. If there is something else, then you calculate Y amount of dollars against it. And then you kind of add them up and then say that hey, this is the ROI across five different employees who kind of passed via this training. Okay. The important part about the Kirkpatrick theory is the fact that you don't start from the top, you work backwards. Okay. When I say you work backwards, you first define level 4. So essentially, you will define this first. What are the business outcomes I want to achieve via this training? Then you essentially do these two things. And then you measure that if people who are doing this training are liking it or not. Okay. And then you kind of go to this level. This is the Kirkpatrick model. Uh, I hope this helps. Any other question? Any other question? I did not want to this lecture to be about Kirkpatrick model. So, any other questions you have? Anything regarding HR analytics? This is the time to ask. Believe me. If you go back and say that I have these 12 different questions, and any kind of trainer is not there, they will like it is very hard for them as well to answer this question. So, any operational, logistics, finance, any question you have, please feel free to ask anyone.
Sir, Samiksha is having some question. One question.
Okay.
Yeah. So can we use AI tools to screen resumes?
Samiksha, I don't know, but let me repeat this question. I was not able to hear you clearly, but can we use AI tools to see resumes? Is that the
No, no,
question?
no. To screen CVs and resumes.
I know something is wrong on my end. I'm not able to hear you clearly. Can you type it in if possible? Sorry.
Yeah. Sure. I will in chat.
Any other question by the time Samiksha types this?
Hi, Kedar, Aradhana here. I have a
Yeah,
question with regards to Power BI and other visualization tools that we have. We belong from a non-tech background. So how
correct.
confident do you think we can become after the training to use those tools?
Correct. So, see, ma'am, to be honest, Power BI and Tableau are the tools which essentially do not require kind of, I would say, a coding background. But what they definitely do require is an analytical mindset. Meaning, let's say I give you a data set, right? You need to have this mindset of finding out some nitty-gritties in that data set, some insights from that data set. And that is essentially more important than having a coding background. Because in Power BI and Tableau, the storytelling and some of the stuff that you will be doing, that will be more or less only the kind of drag and drop and creating visuals kind of it. Okay. And you won't require any kind of, I would say, coding knowledge behind it. What you would definitely require though is an idea of what you're trying to build. मतलब I'll be very blunt here. uh, please don't mind me when I say this. अगर आप बस एक डेटा सेट लेते हो और बोलते हो मैं उसके ऊपर कुछ तो चार्ट्स या विजुअलाइजेशंस बनाऊंगा या बनाऊंगी, it makes no sense to do that because it's a never ending process. You can make 1,000 visualizations and end up showcasing nothing. You have to have a kind of step by step process of what you want to go to. So that is really important. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Any other question? Let me see if I have this question from Samiksha. Where is chat? How can analytics be useful for designing HR technology aspect? If in case company wants to implement ERP system for where we have to do gap analysis, workforce planning, and do planning for every department, how does HR analytics play a crucial role as well? If you could name few reports which are useful. Uh, I would say the first and the foremost thing that you have mentioned here is a very specific use case, Riddhi. Okay, Samitra, I'll come to your question in a bit. Okay, so Riddhi is essentially asking the fact that, hey, if this is a, let's say that I want to implement ERP in my company, and I'm assuming, Riddhi, in this case, right, this is the first time you are applying the whole ERP system or you are implementing this ERP system.
Hi, Kedar. Actually, I have a sore throat. There's a reason I, chatted the whole thing. So maybe I'm not in a position to speak right now. So maybe we can connect on this later if you don't mind.
Sure,
We'll take the other
sure,
stuff.
sure,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you. Can we use AI tools to screen resumes? Samiksha, yes, 100%. Nowadays, everything is screened via AI. It's like companies are built on it nowadays. Chat GPTs and perplexities are used. Even Greenhouse and all the HRMS tools have AI for this. And I would say 70% of the times it is correct, but 30% of the times it is incorrect. So yes, you will be also learning a part wherein you will be able to kind of do certain things on how to kind of get to that point where you can build it yourself via ChatGPT and Perplexity,
So
if you
Kedar,
use those.
will be able to learn how do we put prompts in the Copilot or ChatGPT kind of platforms?
Yes, to a certain extent, yes. But please, I want to make this very clear, right? Those will not be exhaustive learnings, but those will be learnings which will be like, hey, how do you put this prompt in? How do you put that prompt in? How do you reshape it? How do you refactor it? So on and so forth. That will definitely be taught, but by no means will it be exhaustive because it's kind of very wide. You can go from giving a resume uploaded to ChatGPT and find insights in this resume to the part wherein is this guy a good fit for Python developer role. So yes, that will be there. Any other questions? How do we measure ROI of creativity and creative outputs in jobs that require creativity? Well, Kaustubh, I'll be very transparent and blunt again here. It's very hard to measure that. Yeah, it's because firstly, it's a subjective thing. When you say creative output, it can be extremely subjective in nature. So, there is no there are mechanisms, there are pretty famous mechanisms to kind of put this in place and kind of create again a grid which essentially says where you rank things from 0 to 10 on ROI and say that this is a 6, this is a 9 on ROI, stuff like that. But to be honest, I am not that sure about this fact wherein you can say that, hey, this grid or this matrix essentially does everything that you want it to and is a good way of measuring ROI. I would not say that. So creative outputs are still a problem, will remain a problem. The only thing that you can do is you can kind of you can have a program which essentially evaluates every output in the same way so that there is uniformity in it. One of the things that I've not talked about, and that is something that I wanted to talk about in the last 5 minutes, is the opportunities that this brings us. Okay, so all of you have been asking, what do we cover? What can I do with this? So on and so forth. But let's be very transparent again, right? We are all doing this so that we want to learn more and that we want to get a better, either a job or we want to switch to a better pay scales, stuff like this. So there are a couple of things that happen as a result of this, right? So there are multiple kind of opportunities that open, okay, and they are I don't know how many of you have heard it, but quite a few of them are based in India, and some of them are based out of India as well. Okay, just to be very clear. So there is obviously, as you know, a very straightforward openings that you would see as HR analysts. Okay. Uh, HR analysts are the ones who essentially look at this descriptive part of data that I was talking about, create dashboards, storylines, so on and so forth. Okay. These are the people who will kind of do all the analysis on HR data. And what this also gives you an added advantage is the fact that once you're able to do this exercise, then you can also do analysis on other subjects as well. Okay, it is not as if you are only restricted towards the fact that, hey, I am doing HR analytics, so I'll be only an analyst in the HR domain. It doesn't work like that. So this is one of the important points that you have to understand. The because generally just the data changes, the whole process does not change. Okay, this is something that is important for you to understand. There are also other kinds of job roles that open up. Like, for example, let me draw this. Drawing this would be easier. I hope you are able to see the screen right. So
Sorry
there
to
are
interrupt, Kedar. Just to extend this question further, Can you please
Okay.
help us with the entire roadmap and the long-term growth in these positions as well, going forward,
Yes.
5 years, 10
Yeah,
years down the line?
yes, that's what exactly I'm trying, Sham.
Yeah,
Give me
yeah,
a Okay. So, generally, what happens is, let's say you start off with an HR analyst. Okay. Let's say that is the position you generally start off with. So, how does this career ladder look like for an analyst, right? You can also start off as HR reporting or HR workforce manager. When I say manager, it's not like a manager, okay, but the idea is that you kind of have these job roles. Uh, Now, there are other things as well, but I'll not talk about those. But let's say, how does this look like? So, from HR analyst, generally the career ladder is 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 years, depending on which company you are. And essentially, you kind of go to a senior analyst kind of a job role. Okay. From and just to be very clear, senior analyst can be via this as well. Okay. And via this as well. Okay. So senior analyst is present in all of these three segregated domains, okay, which are subdomains of HR analytics. Okay. From senior analyst, generally people move on to a higher level, which is either a consultant or a specialist. Okay. And this essentially also requires around 2 to 3 years. Okay. Once you have that right, that is where you have to take a call. Okay. That is where you have to take a call. Whether you want to go into the business of being a manager in this field, or this is also where you will get an opportunity, or you want to still be an IC, which is an individual contributor role. Okay. And this is from here as well. There are senior managers. And then, as you know, like the whole, I think you guys know better post that what happens once you start going into that management field. There is a manager, senior manager, associate VP, director, all of those things start happening. But this is a typical career ladder that happens for an analyst. Now, you might be asking, where do these kinds of job roles are present? They're present everywhere, right from every kind of a service-based company, which is like TCS, ITM, Mindtree, and stuff like that. They are also present in Workday. If you don't know, there's the Workday offices. They are hiring. There is Greenhouse. They are hiring. So every service-based company, every HR-based company, HRMS-based companies, as well as product companies do this. Okay, product companies do this. Who all also do this? Startups who are focused on the HR side of things. Startups who are focused on the HR side of things. They also have these openings. Okay. Now, if you ask me, but are there startups which hire HR analysts? The blunt and the plain answer is no. The probability of that is very less. Who hires them? Global MNCs, conglomerates. There is more possibility of you being hired as an HR analyst there or a senior analyst there. But let me be also very clear here that once you become these two things, right, you are not you are not in a space where you can only apply for an HR analyst job. You can switch domains, which is a very important part that you have to understand. Because then you can switch to a part where you can be a data analyst, procurement analyst, okay, finance. I would say these two require some kind of domain knowledge, but the technical toolkit stays the same. The technical toolkit does not change. इसमें भी आप सारी चीजें वही यूज कर रहे हो जो इसमें यूज कर रहे हो, बस डोमेन अलग है. ओके, तो अगर आपको डोमेन नॉलेज आ गया तो आप इसमें शिफ्ट कर सकते हो. ओके, just to be clear, I think there's a question. What are the opportunities I can get in market as HR analyst? Okay, that's exactly what we covered right now. Okay, any other question? Okay. Uh, Also, there is a very common question that generally people ask, that what is the difference between uh, HR analytics and people analytics? Do you guys know that what is the difference between HR analytics and people analytics? I won't take much of your time, but just give me about 2 minutes and I will explain the difference. Any idea? Anyone?
Not really.
Quickly. Okay. Uh, so HR analytics is a is a term which has things like performance reviews, turnover, training, all of those things, right? The scope is narrow. The scope is narrower. Okay. Whereas in that of people analytics, the scope is much broader. Okay. When we talk about people analytics, we talk about so many things. We talk about teams, we talk about employees, the formation of the how the hierarchy in the company would look like, to external talent pools. Uh, so many things are there. Like not just HR, but entire impact on employee life cycle. Like right from the benefits that the person gets to the business outcomes that he or she drives. Okay. And the strategic goals that are associated with it. So, like productivity, innovation, and revenue growth. That all comes under people analytics. Okay. But under HR analytics, you have a very, very specific goal to achieve, which is effectiveness and efficiency of human resources, policies, and practices. Okay. And you have a couple of very, very typical metrics that you look at, like TTH, time to hire, CPH, cost per hire, ROI, like somebody said, the turnover rate, so on, and the absenteeism, so on and so forth. So you essentially play a lot with the data side of things in here. Okay. Like you have data for literally more or less everything. Whereas typical metrics in people analytics would look like diversity and inclusion, leadership effectiveness, employee engagement and well-being, वो mentally fatigued है या नहीं. All of these things come into the play as well. So it is like connect people analytics essentially talks about connecting employees with business outcomes, whereas HR analytics talks about more or less data-driven insights on human resources itself. So those are the two major differences that we have to understand. This, once you are very, very high up in the chain of HR analytics, is when you essentially become a person who is kind of managing both, like a director or a senior director or a VP in those cases. But people analytics and HR analytics are different. Do not confuse them with one another. This is much more qualitative. People analytics is much more qualitative in nature. HR analytics is much more quantitative in nature. So there is a huge gap in both of these things. Okay. I hope that clears few of the queries that you might have. Any other questions?
Absolutely, that was really insightful, Kedar. Also, the time to hire and cost of hire. Also, the attrition ratios before the joining process. That has been a
Yes.
big concern throughout the hiring process of a because many prospects, many joiners, they fall out before joining on the last day because the client says no, not to let go of that resource, so he does not join us. So that behavioral pattern can be recognized through all of this analytics, if whether he'll be joining us after receiving the offer later.
A probabilistic measure that you can build, a probabilistic mathematical model that you can build, which is like, will give you a probability, what is the probability that this person will join your organization, but at the end of the day. I'll be very blunt here again. You can do all the mathematics that you want. At the end
Yes,
of the day, it's a person who decides
absolutely,
uh,
absolutely.
that.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
yes.
but you it might not work for 5 people, 10 people, but yeah, if you are hiring like about 20, 30 people in an organization, yeah, then I would say 80 to 85% of the time that mathematical model fits correctly.
And Kedar, I've been a HR generalist for 2 years and 1 year into IT recruitment. Is
Okay.
it something I can look forward to transition into HR analytics or different domains, carrying that kind of experience with me?
Yes, definitely. I think for you, then HR senior analyst looks like the best position right now, Sham, to be very honest. I'm no judge on that part, but right, because you have 3 years of experience already, right? Then having the tools like Excel and I would say Power BI and I would say some level of SQL in your repertoire will definitely help you in getting that kind of an experience to a senior analyst position.
Right. Thanks.
Hi Kedar, Himanshu this side.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, I do have a couple of questions. So the first one is that if somebody carries, let's say, 8 to 9 years of experience into HR, right, into payroll,
Hmm.
recruitment, as well as training as well. So if somebody wants to transition into, I mean, CHRO, I mean, Chief Human Resource Officer role. So what are the
Hmm.
things you need to take care of when it comes to the course curriculum that we are offering, as well as the external factors that he needs to take care of to transition into this role?
Okay, so Himanshu, firstly, CHRO role does not essentially only involve HR analytics, just to be extremely clear with everybody here.
Okay.
Uh, it will involve an overlap with people analytics, which has a much broader scope.
Hmm.
So I would say the HR analytics would come. So that overlap will essentially lie at which stage the company is at where the CHRO is present. So I'll give you a very simple example. If the company is extremely small and on a growth spurt, right, your job will be much more on the HR analytics part than on the people analytics.
Okay.
But let's say if you join as a CHRO in a pretty stable organization, then
Hmm.
HR analytics is the least of your worries because there is already a name in the market, you are paying decent enough salaries, stuff like that, right?
Okay.
And at that time, people analytics will be more or less the focus and everybody to kind of
Understood.
get their hands dirty there. Now, coming to the first part of the question, wherein if somebody has 9 years of experience and they want to join CHRO, so there are two different ways to look at this problem. Okay, I would not say problem, but this conundrum, I would say. So the first thing is the fact that if you are getting a CHRO position, do you do all of these things at the ground level? In the sense, do you write SQL queries? Do you create dashboards? Do you do all of these things? Of course not. You
No.
only do Excel viewing, you view dashboards which have been created by others. But
Yes.
what would you require is the part that you need to have that mindset to understand the next steps or that analytical insights. You need to have that mindset to gather the analytics and then act on it. So that decision making process is where you will kind of get your money for, right? Not to build dashboards or Excels. And
Understood.
to make sure that you take the right decision is where you need to have that mindset and you need to have some part of your past experience in the place where you have gotten your hands dirty with the data because not everything is ideal in nature. Like
Correct.
वो डिसीजन लेने के लिए आपको कुछ ना कुछ प्रायर एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए तभी आप बता पाओगे कि ये डेटा ऐसा होगा इसलिए ये ऐसा इंसाइट आया है और इस इंसाइट से मैं ये डिसीजन ले सकता हूँ जिसके वजह से एक्स वाई जेड आउटकम आएगा
Okay,
और
understood.
ये
So,
माइंडसेट आना चाहिए आपको.
so basically, you're trying to refer is that कि before I join या फिर मेरा जो initial task होगा into any company, so I should have a basic understanding about how the analytics works when it comes to HR data, right? जब तक मेरा खुद का experience नहीं रहेगा, I will not be able to handle this kind of stuff that you're talking about, right?
करेक्ट. उसमें
Okay.
आपको ये भी पता चाहिए कि उसमें प्रॉब्लम्स क्या रहते हैं, कॉमन प्रॉब्लम. जैसे अब मैं बताता हूँ, टाइम टू हायर हम एक हमेशा मेट्रिक कैलकुलेट करते हैं ऑन एन एवरेज, राइट.
Mm-hmm.
ऑनेस्ट विद यू, टाइम टू हायर जो होता है वो बहुत स्क्यूड मेट्रिक है. क्यों? क्योंकि देखो, आप एक पोजीशन ओपन कर रहे हो,
जी।
उसमें 3 मंथ्स का पीरियड था हायर करने का, लेट्स से दैट
हम्म,
for 3 months an analyst joined the company. There was another requirement for it, and in 2 months another analyst joined the company. But the
okay,
third opening which was there, somebody said, I think Sham said, they said yes, 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 they will join, and on the last day they did not join.
okay,
Okay, now what happens is you start your search back again, or you offer another candidate which you had in pipeline, so on and so forth, और वो जाता है 5-6 महीने तक. अगर आप अब एवरेज टाइम टू हायर वगैरह कैलकुलेट करोगे तो वो बढ़ जाता है, क्योंकि एक एनोमलस प्रॉब्लम आ गया आपके पास. जो
correct.
पहले आपका टाइम टू हायर 1 मंथ था, अब वो
Hmm.
पुश हो रहा है 2.5 मंथ्स के हो रहा
Okay,
है. तो ये सारी चीजें देखनी पड़ती हैं आपको कि इफ दीज आर द काइंड ऑफ एनोमलीज दैट आर अफेक्टिंग योर मेट्रिक्स, इफ these are the anomalies, then do you still consider them or do you ignore them?
okay.
Like these kind of questions you should already know the answer to, then you can go to that position and then kind of understand this a bit better.
Okay. So, final question, Keda, is that basically, chalo मान लेते हैं कि if somebody have pursued their MBA into HR, for example, okay, and
Okay.
just want to start as a fresh, completely fresh into HR analytics. So, does Python or let's say advanced SQL is gonna help him to beat the competition, or what is the scenario over there? कि Excel
It
power
will
कैसे
help.
मिलेगा?
हाँ, तो देखो, जितने ज्यादा देखो, I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
अगर आपको, वैसी मार्केट बहुत टफ है, और जितने लोग हैं, अगर पहले 500 लोग अप्लाई कर रहे थे एक पोजीशन के लिए, तो अभी 800 लोग अप्लाई कर रहे हैं.
जी.
So you have to have that some kind of extra thing which essentially differentiates you from everybody else. Okay,
Understood.
point number one. Second thing, learning something new is always beneficial. And I'll tell you how. If you learn Python and SQL right now, you might not require it in your first job. But once you become an analyst in that same job, what will
Mm-hmm.
definitely happen is the fact that it would be easier for you to switch to another job role into another domain,
Okay.
wherein you can be a data analyst, a procurement analyst, so on and so forth, क्योंकि उसमें आपको 100% एसक्यूएल और पाइथन लगेगा.
Okay. Okay.
तो ऐसा नहीं कि बस पहला जॉब है इसलिए मुझे पाइथन या एसक्यूएल सीखना पड़ेगा. You have to think, if you think about it in broader terms or in a longer time frame, right?
Yeah.
It will be much more effective that way as well.
Okay, understood. And what are the major sectors who are hiring quite a lot when it comes to HR analyst roles? So is it IT or I mean product-based companies or service-based companies? या फिर BFSI sector as such?
पहले तो बीएफएसआई बहुत हायर करते हैं, बट बीएफएसआई में बहुत बड़ी कंपनीज हायर करती हैं. जो जैसे अभी आपका हो गया यूपीएस,
Hmm.
जैसे हो गया जेपी मॉर्गन, ये एचआर एनालिस्ट हायर करते हैं क्योंकि उनका वर्कफोर्स इतना बड़ा होता है कि उनको मैनेज करने में बहुत बड़ी
Okay.
परेशानी होती है. जनरली छोटी प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनीज, 50-60 पीपल, सेंटर ऑफ एक्सलेंस वाली कंपनीज हायर नहीं करती प्रोडक्ट एनालिस्ट, सॉरी एचआर एनालिस्ट को.
Okay.
HR analysts are hired either by service-based companies which are huge,
Hmm.
yeah, by companies who are already building these HRMS portals like yeah, these things like Workday, Greenhouse, uh, kind of things. And the third is the stable IT companies, which are like the Accentures of the world and stuff like that. क्योंकि सी सिंपल है, जहां जहां पे एचआर एनालिटिक्स आपको चाहिए वो कहाँ कहाँ लगेगा, जब आपका ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज इतना बड़ा हो चुका है कि आपको हैंडल करने में प्रॉब्लम है, उन सारी कंपनीज में एचआर एनालिटिक्स लगेगा. सिंपल. इट डज नॉट मैटर विच कंपनी इट इज. आई होप आई आंसर्ड योर क्वेश्चन. हेलो. हेलो,
Yes,
आई एम ऑडिबल?
yeah, you're audible, Kedar.
ओ ओ ओके, सॉरी. एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस? प्लीज अभी पूछ लो. एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस? Going once, going twice. Going thrice. Gone. Okay, cool. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you understood what we are planning and what we are trying to achieve via this overview session. And if you have any doubts, feel free to reach out, uh, okay, to anybody in the CoachX team or via them to me, and we'll try to answer your queries if you have any. Uh, Anything else you always want me to cover? Awesome. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you for being a great audience and being patient listeners. Cheers. Have a good one. Enjoy
Thank
your
you so much,
weekend.
Kedar. It was really great, insightful. It was greatly insightful, and I believe this will be really helpful in decision making going forward for me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much for those kind words. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you, guys.